Hey guys, so Lord here, back again with another video. Today we're going to be talking about all kinds of cool new reveals from this year's New York Toy Fair. And while I do know there was no physical event, that didn't stop all our favorite toy companies from showing off some kick-ass products. So we are going to be talking about what is relevant to my channel today. A lot of people have talked about pretty much everything at this point, so I'm just going to talk about what is relevant to my channel, because at the end of the day, I ain't rich, I can't afford to buy everything, or collect everything, or review everything. That's just the nature of the beast. So, enough jibber-jabbering, let's just get right into it. First up, we are going to talk about what the fine folks over at good old Hasbro had to show for their Fan First Days. They showed off some new Transformers product, albeit not a whole lot of Beast Wars. There were a few repaints with the mutant heads, Sandstorm, Night Stalker, and Buzzsaw, as well as an excellent showing from the G.I. Joe team, which, if I'm being quite honest here, is making the rest of y'all look bad. But what we're going to focus on primarily for this video is Marvel Legends, because those of you who know me, you know I've been a Marvel Legends collector for the longest time. Sorry, but I couldn't help but throw a Billy Joel reference in there, because it's a fact, Jack. I've been collecting Legends for many years now, and I gotta tell you, your boy's not too happy with the state of Marvel Legends as of late. Between the price hikes and overall character selection, I don't see myself picking up a whole lot of Legends aside from this awesome retro carded Rhino, another addition to the Spider-Man retro line. You know I'm a sucker for anything on that Spider-Man retro card, even though I don't keep my stuff mint and package. They just have a really nice presentation and presence about them, and this Rhino is no exception. That, and he is super retro classic, which ticks all kinds of boxes for me. But other than that, the only other things that the Hasbro team showed that I was really interested in are this Alex Ross inspired Iron Man and Eldritch looking Thor here. Yeah, the controller, not really a character I'm all too familiar with, and you guys know me, I'm all for a kind of goofy bad guy character, you know, kind of a C or D list villain as it were. But when the price of the figures to get the Build-A-Figure parts goes from 20 to 25 bucks in less than a year, that's no bueno for me. So I'm probably only going to pick up a couple figures from that controller wave and save my money for what is to be the 60th anniversary of Spider-Man line. Next up, and moving on to the fine folks over at Mattel and Masters of the Universe. And could someone please tell Mattel to get with the program and reveal figures like every other toy company is doing in 2022? I don't get why Mattel doesn't release official product images a month before the dang things are set to come out. It makes no sense to me and is quite stupid and annoying. Thus, we only have these blurry arse screenshots from Instagram to work with, which, by the way, a shout out to my good buddy Evil Villain for forwarding me this post on good old Instagram. But we have some Masterverse and Origin stuff to talk about. Didn't see anything in regards to the core collection as far as that new kind of kiddish Masters of the Universe show on Netflix goes, which, by the way, a really good show. Highly recommend you check that out if you have the time. As well as Mega Constructs, and nothing on the Mega Constructs front either. So we're going to focus on Masterverse and Origins, because those are my bread and butter when it comes to Masters, because can't afford classics. Got a lot of the vintage stuff already, as well as 2000X, which can we get some 2000X love in current Masters product, please and thank you. I saw 2000X Skeletor kind of leaked for Origins, but really haven't seen hide nor hair of it since. I'd like to see some 2000X love since it is the 20th anniversary and all. But starting off with Masterverse, we have Frosta from good old-fashioned classic Princess of Power, not that abomination from Noelle Stevenson that was on Netflix. God, what a train wreck. But I'm not going to get into a tangent because thankfully we're getting good old-fashioned Frosta here. Kind of curious why they went with her instead of, I don't know, She-Ra, star of the show. I guess I just want to mix it up, keep you on your toes. I'm okay with that. I don't have a Frosta figure, so this will, I guess, be my first Frosta figure. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm going to be picking up this Princess of Power subline in Masterverse or not. Something I will be picking up is the Sunman stuff, because that's freaking cool. You know, he was a KO at first, but now he's been brought into Origins Wave 8, now Masterverse Wave, what is it, 6? Looking really awesome. He looks like a really nice figure. I'm looking forward to picking that one up. Moving on from him, though, we have Battle Armor He-Man. Not sure what the source material of this is, if it's supposed to be part of that new Eternia stuff, maybe something that's coming to Revelation, or just an homage to the good old-fashioned classic MOTU. But I'm for it. Hopefully we get a Battle Armor Skeletor to go with him, which I assume that's going to be in Wave 7 or whatever number is next. So that'll be really, really cool to see if they do wind up doing something like that. And then we have Jitsu, who I guess is from Master of the Universe Revelation? I don't know. I don't remember seeing him a whole lot in that series, but I guess he must have been in that pilot episode, that first episode, before things went to heck and all heck broke loose. Must have been in that big old Colossus battle scene, so I might have to go back and check that out again, see if he's in there. But I'd buy that no matter what it's an homage to, because I like Jitsu as a character. I think he's really cool. And we need someone to go with Fisto, right? But moving on from Masterverse, we have some new Origins to talk about. And finally, we're getting good old Burger King. Have it your way, man. Because we're getting Randor. That's right. And I have a very special plan in mind for this Randor figure. You guys will find out around holiday season, so long as he comes out by then, because shipping delays and whatnot. But then we also have Whiplash, my personal favorite from this wave. I'm looking forward to that guy an awful lot, because he's going to go really well with Mr. Clawful, which I would like a 2000X version of both of those guys, because that's where I remember them from. They were Tweedledee and Tweedledum of the 2000X Evil Warriors. What can I say? Speaking of Evil Warriors, though, we have a re-release of Trapjaw in his mini-comic colors / form, because he's got some different parts from the standard Trapjaw, which was kind of a pain in the neck to get a hold of. I lucked out and got mine from the local friend who shall not be named for privacy reasons, but I know a lot of people don't have hookups like that, so kind of unfortunate that they haven't really reissued a lot of the classic looks for these characters. But hey, the mini comic version is better than nothing, and it's something different for my Origins collection, so I'll definitely be picking him up and adding him to my mini comic versions of the Evil Warriors. But lastly, we have another addition to the Sunman line in Digitino, which should be ticking all kinds of boxes for my good buddy T-Biz, because it's a Hispanic character for Masters of the Universe, originally from a KO line, now being brought into the Masters mythos proper. The only other real contender I could have thought of to put in the kind of Hispanic superhero good guy role for MOTU would have been John Blackstar, who in my opinion is a little bit cooler, but that's neither here nor there, because at the end of the day, a little bit of variety never hurt anyone, right? Alright, now we're getting into the good stuff. And no, I don't mean Ninja Turtles, and yes, I do realize that quite a few of you out there are big fans of what NECA's doing with TMNT as of late, but that's just not my cup of tea. Although I will say, if they do go down the 2003 Turtles rabbit hole, I might be interested. But, of course, we are talking about none other than NECA's Ultimate Gargoyles line, which is, again, a little bit more on the comic book side of things as far as aesthetics goes, but that is a-okay. I'm just glad that we are getting new awesome Gargoyles action figures in 2022. With how successful Goliath was, the fact that Thalog is out now, and Demona and Bronx are soon to follow, I think NECA mentioned something about Haulathon, which is in cooperation with Target. They're going to offer up some pre-orders in regards to at least those two characters and some stuff regarding their other properties, like of course TMNT, Gremlins, and the like. But for starters, we got good old Hudson to talk about here, who is set to come out later this year, which seems a bit far away, so I'm curious if some of the other stuff they have planned is going to come out before him or not. But we did get full solicitations and pre-orders for Hudson a couple of weeks ago over on sites like BBTS, Entertainment Earth, and the like, so you can go pre-order him now. I think he's $40, so unlike Hasbro, they're not raising their prices again. But moving on from good old Hudson, who comes equipped with his awesome sword, 2 sets of hands, and an extra hand, I think meant to actually grip that sword, as well as a head portrait in a more aggressive, roaring kind of expression, which looks awesome. We are also going to be getting the trio, good old Brooklyn, Broadway, and Lexington. And as stoked as I am to get Brooklyn and Broadway, more or less Brooklyn, because he is my favorite gargoyle next to Goliath from the core Manhattan clan. Looks like he's got an ab crunch going on there. I don't know, am I the only one seeing it that way? The way his torso's cut's looking a little bit more on the ab crunch side of things, which would be interesting for this line, because I mentioned that in my Goliath review, that maybe a ratcheted ab crunch is the way to go with these guys because of the weight of the wings. Not sure if it helped or not, but worth testing out. And then Broadway, I'm curious how much range he has in his diaphragm joint, because, well, look at the size of the gut on that dude. It is humongous. But the one that's really piquing my interest, ironically, because he's not my favorite character by any means, but he is cool nonetheless, is Lexington, because look at those arms. He's got the bicep cut and the double jointed elbows, the wrist joints, and everything. And if you guys know Lexington, he's kind of like Man-Bat from DC, which, don't worry, we're going to talk about him in a minute. But he's got his wings connected to his arms and his body, and I think even his legs. So I am super curious on the engineering of this little guy. He looks like he's going to be a lot of fun, because it looks like they packed him full of articulation despite his, well, unavoidable aesthetic. So I gotta commend NECA for testing the waters and being quite ballsy, undertaking such a unique character design, and one that doesn't exactly translate well into action figure form. Moving on to what the Todd father and the fine folks over at McFarlane Toys had to show us for this Toy Fair season. And actually, moving on from one of my top 3 loves, Gargoyles, to another with Spawn, kind of makes me even more sad that Hasbro's Marvel team didn't whip out something Ghost Rider related to complete the trifecta of your boy's top 3 loves. But I guess the world is just not ready to handle Gargoyles, Ghost Rider, and Spawn in the same week. I call BS on that, but I digress. So, starting off with Spawn Universe Wave 3, which seems a little bit more like Wave 2, because Wave 2 felt a little bit more like Wave 1.5 with all the repaints and whatnot, but that's neither here nor there. We're getting a classic Spawn with an oddball cape that's permanently attached to a throne. Yeah, this is supposed to be kind of a reference to a figure from the Alternate Realities line where Spawn sat upon a throne of skulls and junk and had a little bit of a Hamlet thing going on. Kind of sad it doesn't come with a skull to prop in old Al Simmons' hand there, but for all of you complaining that this guy doesn't have a normal cape, 99.98% of you were probably just going to buy a soft goods wired cape anyways, so quit your complaining. You were just gonna do that in the first place. I'm not stupid. Wasn't born yesterday. And on top of the fact that you were probably gonna do that anyways, it's a lot easier to do because you can just take the thing off him. So there you go. There's your classic Spawn. Quit your complaining. But moving on from him, we have the Overkill Mega Fig, which follows suit with Violator and Cygor. Hopefully he's as good as those two. A little bit more dumbed down as far as Overkill goes. He doesn't have any crazy chains or a parking meter to beat the snot out of you with, but that's okay. It's a modern interpretation of a classic character who apparently is a good guy now, along with Cygor. Not sure how I feel about that, but at the end of the day, it's a new Cygor figure, and I guarantee you can do a lot more with this guy than you can with the older ones. But moving on from him, we have the basic assortment: Raven Spawn, Ninja Spawn, and Haunt. Really excited for Haunt. He's never had a figure before. Ninja Spawn is a really nice update, and while I have the first Raven Spawn, I'm more than likely going to pick this one up. I kind of dig the colors on it a little bit more than the previous release. And he comes with a smaller hook weapon, which the previous release came with that big kind of Lobo chain that was made out of hard plastic. Couldn't really do a whole lot with it, so this is a welcome addition to the Spawn Universe collection, much like the Gunslinger Spawn with the Gatling gun, which comes in handy because I'm sure they're going to make a ride for that figure at some point, whether it's a horse or a motorcycle. Either way, I wanted that big fat minigun, and one of these days I will have that big fat minigun. And you guys know me, I'm kind of a completionist when it comes to the Spawn stuff. So moving on from Spawn though, we have DC Multiverse with some basic figures first. Ghostmaker, who is a new character to my understanding, and a little bit more on the Azrael side of things. He's not afraid to go that extra mile when it comes to cleaning up crime in the streets of Gotham, if you know what I'm saying. But he looks pretty cool. Definitely going to check him out. I'm curious to learn more about his character because, well, his name is Ghostmaker. Where does he get that name from? The mind boggles. But we also have another addition to the death metal line with this Duke Thomas figure who's kind of rocking this armored Batman knight kind of costume, which looks pretty cool, and he's got a battle axe guitar. I don't know, that's pretty metal if you ask me. Granted, you can't see it in the pictures here. My apologies. I'm trying to keep things as smooth and as fast as possible. I don't want to waste too much of your time because this stuff has been talked about, but Duke Thomas does have a pretty sick battle axe guitar. Looks really cool. Definitely going to check him out. The one I'm a little bit on the fence with is the infected Batman from Negative Earth 22. Now, is this the Batman who laughs before he goes all BDSM and everything? Because that's what it's kind of looking like based off the head sculpt there. And then he's got the kind of the greens and purples like the Joker. Very Joker-esque with this Batman. So I'm guessing this is Batman who laughs pre-costume everyone recognizes him in. Kind of on the fence on this one. He looks kind of cool, but I don't know. I got a lot of the Dark Knight's metal stuff already. I could probably pass on this one, or, you know, it wouldn't break my heart if I missed out on it. I wouldn't lose sleep on it, to tell you the truth. But moving on to another Dark Knight / death metal related character with the first kind of deluxe figure that McFarlane had to show for their Multiverse line. The Joker Dragon. This is straight out of death metal. This is what death metal Batman uses to make his death metal bat cycle. He uses the literal skeleton of this thing, which is absolutely terrifying and 100% nightmare fuel. Look at the face on that thing. It is the thing of nightmares, kids. I'm terrified of this toy, even though I do really want it. So I'm guessing it's a bendy figure of some kind. It's going to run you about $30. Everything else is pretty standard as far as the price points go. You know, Overkill is the $50. Spawn with the Throne is $40, and then everything else is $20 to $25. So nothing too out of the ordinary there. But this guy's only $30, and I actually thought he was going to be a mega fig just based off the size. But it's pretty cool that Todd's still keeping the prices low, even though some companies, like Hasbro, are raising them without justifiable means. or a good reason, to say the very least. But moving on from the Joker Dragon, we now have the two things that really piqued my interest as far as the DC Multiverse stuff goes. You guys know me. Spawn is my main shtick when it comes to McFarlane toys. But DC Multiverse is a close second because I like me some Batman. I like it as much as the next guy. But that said, we are getting a Killer Croc based off how he appeared in the Arkham games. I say Arkham games because he pretty much looked like this in Arkham City too. Albeit a little bit lackluster without the chains, and I kind of hope there's a hinged jaw on this guy, though it doesn't really look like there is. Just to give him a little bit more character, a little bit more expression in that face, because he looks very kind of whatever. He doesn't look the most intimidating here, unlike the Titan Joker and the Clayface, which are set to come out any day now. This guy looks very kind of calm, and that's not how Killer Croc was in these games. He was very kind of in your face and gnarly, and while this figure definitely has the size, no doubt about that, I think the face could have used a little bit of work, or just a hinged jaw to give you that little bit more added attitude or expression, you know? But moving on from him, we have my favorite reveal for the DC Multiverse line from McFarlane's Winter Festival? Winterfest? I can't remember what he called it, but it's kind of Frost King collect-a-build figure related, because that wave just kind of hit, and they did all their reveals the same weekend. But we got Man-Bat from DC Rebirth. Look at this guy right here. He's looking a little bit on the animated side as far as the proportioning goes, with that very broad chest and shoulders, skinny waist, and tiny legs. Hopefully he's able to stand all right. I'm hoping they kind of cut some of the articulation in the legs so he doesn't topple over. If anything, he should just have like some ankle joints and that bottom ankle, because that's really where it matters. That upper ankle joint, you don't really need any articulation there. And I've been saying this with the NECA Gargoyles. It doesn't really add much to the articulation. Yeah, you can straighten them out, but that's about all you can do with it. And that's not really what a character like this needs. It needs to be bent. It needs to be at that kind of chicken-legged, dog-legged stance, because that's the only way that really makes sense. But at any rate, this is an awesome-looking Man-Bat figure. I don't really mind that the wings aren't folded out, because I have Man-Bats that have the wings folded out. Though there are ways to do that effectively, and it won't cost too much more. The Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Sauron does an excellent job of having wings like this and giving you the ability to splay them out and whatnot. But that figure is kind of old now, so not a whole lot of options on the market for really awesome winged characters like this. So, you know, this is definitely a contender for one of my most anticipated and even quite possibly top 10 figures of the year, because I love Man-Bat as a character. I think he's awesome. Good old Kirk Langstrom. Can't go wrong with a almost Lizard from Spider-Man-esque story. I know a lot of people like to compare Killer Croc to Lizard, but I like to compare Man-Bat because he is a scientist that turns himself into a bipedal kind of creature here, and that's exactly what this figure evokes. Just look at the head sculpt on that thing. That's what the Killer Croc needs, is something like that. He's like screaming, snarling, super freaking cool looking figure, man. I am absolutely excited for this release. And wrapping things up with a company that had a surprising amount of reveals that piqued my interest, and that's going to be none other than good old Mr. Brian Flynn and the fine folks over at Super 7. That's right, Super 7 has been going ham on that turkey with reveals lately, whether it's reaction, ultimates, or other stuff they dabble in. I know they do that, was it Super Cyborg stuff and some Shogun Warriors type stuff too. But Super 7 is definitely broadened their horizons. I remember when they only really did reaction figures and Master of the Universe Classics type stuff. Now they're doing ultimates for almost everything under the sun, whether it's G.I. Joe, Transformers, freaking Animaniacs, Disney, Space Odyssey. I mean, they're going ham on that turkey, man. So with that being said, I do not have the latest wave of Turtles Ultimates here because, well, I just didn't have the time to fudge them in, but They are up for pre-order along with everything else in this video that I'm talking about here. That said, while I'm not really into the Turtle Ultimates, I just don't want to get into another line here. I will say the punk rocker Donatello is pretty cool. I might need to pick that up. I mean, he comes with a keytar, for crying out loud. That's pretty funny. I'm not gonna lie. I'm all for a good joke once in a while. But moving on from that to another music-related character that Super 7 has brought us before in the past, and that is Mr. Tobias Forge himself, Papa Emeritus II. I have the Papa Emeritus the First figure that came out last year. It cracked my top 13 action figures of the year list. I liked it so much. And I actually liked him a little bit more than King Diamond just because he improved some things in the articulation department that King Diamond did that I wasn't too big a fan of. But this guy right here, being the same pretty much base figure as that original Papa Emeritus, this is a definite must-have for me. You guys know me, I'm a big Ghost fan. I saw them live. The video is on this channel. You can see how good this band is live. One of my favorite bands in modern rock / metal, because what are they really? Scooby-Doo chase music? Let's be real here. But I'm not too familiar with this suited version of Papa Emeritus. I'm more familiar with Papa Emeritus III or Cardinal Copia, which is what he was when I saw Ghost perform live, which, man, that was just such a good show, man. Sound was a little screwy, but overall, it was an excellent show. I really love that band live. That was definitely a bucket list band. I needed to cross off the I need to see live list. Behemoth is on there too, but given everything in the world nowadays, I don't know if that's going to happen. But back to Papa Emeritus II here. This is a definite must-have for me. It's the look he had when I got into Ghost around the time the album, is it Meteora? I cannot remember. I think it's Meteora came out. I think Meteor is freaking Linkin Park, isn't it? But that's the look he had around the time I got into them when I graduated high school. So this is a bit more sentimental to me than the first Papa Emeritus figure Super 7 did. I just bought that because I wasn't sure if we were going to get the other ones. But I'm pretty much all in on this Ghost line. I'm hoping for some nameless ghouls. That'd be kind of sweet to put with the Papa Emeritus figures. But that'd be a lot of money because there's like 6 dudes in that band other than good old Tobias Forge here. Moving on from him, though, to Super 7's own IP, which is, of course, going to be none other than The Worst, which was a reaction line first and Ultimates line second. I have yet to really pre-order the first wave, but it's inevitable because I don't know about you, but skeleton space pirates just tickle my fancy. I don't know what to tell you. But with that being said, so do goofy-looking vampires with sunglasses and blood chalices. But I digress. That said, I think Wave 2 has more stuff that is in my wheelhouse. It's got Black Falcon, who is one of my favorites from the Worst reaction line. I actually have this reaction figure. Shout out to my buddy Vampire for the hookup on that one. The glow-in-the-dark one, no less. This one looks a little bit more like the, is it the Graveyard Shift? It's the color variant. That the second color variation, because I know there was a Star Wars repaint, the glow-in-the-dark repaint, and then there was another one in there somewhere. I think that's what this is supposed to be, based off the color palette, which, his name is Black Falcon, he should be dark-colored, so, yeah. This one makes a little bit more sense with the name. That said, why the heck does he have a thermos and a lunchbox? He's a skeleton, man. He can't consume food and beverages. That's hilarious. So, definite must-have for me. I like this guy a lot, especially that battle-damaged head sculpt. That looks gnarly. That, and he comes with a shield with the Falcon on it, so a little bit more adding to that Black Falcon name. Moving on from him, though, probably the most fun figure in the wave, or of these Worst Ultimates, is the Robot Reaper, because he has a fully soft goods wired robe that goes over this kind of endoskeleton-looking figure, which he looks awesome. He looks great. Straight out of something from the 1980s. I mean, he looks like a B-movie 80s skeleton robot character if I've ever seen one. Comes with some alternate heads there. The one looks kind of interesting because it's a little bit more of a realistic skull with some cybernetic parts on it. Looks like a techno-virusy thing going on. But I think I like the standard head the most for this guy. Just the piercing red eyes, the black, almost black metal face details on him. And it just looks kind of, it looks funny, but it looks kind of freaky at the same time. Almost like the Attack of the Martians guys, how their eyes kind of bugging out of their head a little bit. This guy has that going on, in my opinion. He's got a little bit of that intimidation factor going on. But he also has a sickle you can mount to his hand. I mean, look at that. It's like straight up Trapjaw stuff going on there. Look at the cuff of that scythe. It can straight up peg onto his arm, if I'm not mistaken. And that's pretty sweet. He has a regular kind of sickle, too. Or scythe. I don't know what it's supposed to be called. I'm not a gardener, okay? I'm not the Scarecrow from Batman. I don't know what the stuff is called. But I think that's pretty cool that you can have him holding it as a weapon or mounting it to his arm like Trapjaw. That's pretty sweet. But moving on from the worst, I'm definitely going to check out that line along with, is it Bludgeon from Transformers? Because it's another cool looking skull character. And the alternate head with that figure looks pretty sweet. They didn't show any Transformers stuff this time around, but they did show Disney Wave 3. It's about freaking time. I've been waiting for this because I already pre-ordered Wave 1. I'm currently waiting for it to arrive in my pile of loot over at BBTS. But they're doing Stitch, which is super nostalgic for me because I used to watch the heck out of the Lilo and Stitch series on the Disney Channel. So this is a definite must-have. Though I must admit, it is a bit of a bummer that there's no way to display Stitch with all of his arms. Those of you who remember the movie or the animated series, when Stitch used to flip out, he'd grow multiple arms. I think he had 4 or 6. Can't remember exactly, but shy of packing another figure in the box, I don't think there was a really good way for them to do that. So I'll let that slide because this thing comes with more alternate heads than most figures I currently own. So I still think it's worth the price point, but I do want a multi-arm, more barrel Stitch at some point in the future. That said, I don't want a bunch of Stitches. There is plenty of Stitch variants they could do. I'm hoping we get other characters like a Lilo to go with this Stitch, which I think is inevitable at this point. Typically, when they reveal one character, there's always a partner character and a future wave to go with it. So I think Lilo is going to be the next character, that or maybe the Rob Paulsen alien guy or the other big alien guy that had multiple arms and whatnot. They were like the main characters of the show. I'd like a Gantu. That'd be really cool. He was Kevin Michael Richardson, I think, if I remember correctly. Or the little yellow bad alien guy. Or then there was the rabbit. There's a ton of characters they could do from Lilo and Stitch. It's kind of unreal. But moving on from that, before I get on a tangent of how much I like Lilo and Stitch growing up, we have the Queen of Hearts from Alice in Wonderland. So, to go with Alice and the Mad Hatter, this is, I think, the first time we're getting like a third figure in a kind of set of figures from one specific movie, because we already had 2 with Alice and the Mad Hatter. Now we have 3, technically 4 if you count the little king dude she comes with. I'm not big on this movie, but it is a classic as far as Disney is concerned. And one thing to note about Stitch, actually, going back to that for a second, that shows that Super 7's willing to do some later stuff. So I'd like a Tarzan and some characters from Hunchback and Mulan, please and thank you, and Hercules. That'd be really, really cool. But again, I digress. Don't want to go on a tangent about Stitch again. But Queen of Hearts looks awesome. Has that resting bitch face that everyone loves, and the kind of super pissed off face, and just looks like a fun figure, man. Looking forward to it. Other than that, though, the other 2 are a little bit out of left field. The next one actually goes with the hippopotamus from Wave 2, and that is Gator Ghoul from Scooby-Doo. No, I'm just kidding. It is the alligator character from Fantasia. If you remember Fantasia, there was a scene where alligators danced around with hippos, and they actually brought these characters back in a Christmas special, a very dated CGI Christmas special, but they brought them back, which is kind of interesting because they don't do a lot of Fantasia stuff shy of maybe Chernabog or Chernabog. Yeah, that's really kind of it. He's the only one that shows up in more than just Fantasia most of the time, but these gator and hippo characters have as well. And this guy will be a nice companion to that hippopotamus figure if you are interested in kind of building an army of alligators and hippos that do ballet on ice skates. So there you go. Really cool. Or, you know, if you have Scooby-Doo figures, he could double as a gator ghoul. You take his little hat off, I guess. But moving on from him, probably the most out of left field one, the one I didn't expect at all, is the Big Bad Wolf. And this is kind of a multi-purpose figure because you almost need to buy more than one of these because he doesn't just appear in Little Red Riding Hood. He doesn't just appear in the Three Little Pigs. And he doesn't just appear in whatever that sheep costume's from. So, you know, you kind of need multiples of these to have all the different shorts, I'll say, because I don't think they were full-length movies or anything by that nature. But I do believe this particular figure is meant to be based off one of the music-related movies, not named Fantasia. Like Make Mine Music or something like that. I can't remember exactly. They're super old school. I've seen quite a few of them, particularly the one with Johnny Appleseed, where like it kind of like the apocalypse but with apple trees. You guys remember that old school Disney short? But this figure is awesome. It's absolutely one of the funniest things I've seen all year, so I definitely need to pick this up, and I think a couple of buddies of mine are thinking about picking him up as well, just because he comes with that granny costume, he comes with the sheep costume. Such display ability and variety and options with this guy, it's not even funny. So super stoked to see some deeper cuts, I guess, in this Disney line, which makes me excited for maybe a Horned King, because that's a little bit more of a deeper cut than you may think. That said, that's pretty much a wrap for the Toy Fair reveals, so why don't we wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and while I do feel that most, if not all, of our favorite toy companies were firing on all cylinders this Toy Fair season, gotta be honest, the only real disappointment for me personally were the fine folks over at Hasbro, with the exception of the Joe team, which is picking up a lot of slack from the other teams. Transformers just really wasn't doing much for me because they're kind of phasing out of Beast Wars. We already got a lot of those main characters now, so there's not a whole lot more they could do. I would like to see some characters like Silverbolt, Depth Charge, and maybe some from the later seasons of Beast Wars brought into the new Transformers Legacy line, but no news on that yet. Star Wars, they just don't seem to really have anything going on. I don't know if that's something to do with Disney, but they're just letting me down left and right, man. Almost makes you not want to bother with Star Wars anymore between the distribution and the lackluster reveals. And then the Marvel team, the surprising one, with the exception of that retro-carded Rhino and the Iron Man and Thor from the controller wave, they didn't really talk or show anything that I was really interested in, which is a shame because it is the 60th anniversary of Spider-Man and the 50th anniversary of Ghost Rider, two pretty big name characters in the Marvel Universe nowadays. I mean, I know Ghost Rider's not as big as Spider-Man, but he does sell a lot better than a lot of the stuff they are doing, like the Eternals, which are still warming pegs to this very day, along with America Chavez now. I don't know. I don't know what the state of Marvel Legends is going to be towards the end of the year, but I'm hoping that maybe during Hasbro Fan Fest, which is usually held during the spring, they'll have something better to show, something that piques my interest a little more. And if they do, I'd be more than happy to talk about it here. But that said, everyone else was firing on all cylinders. McFarlane Toys, NECA Toys, and do I even need to say it, Super 7? We're going ham on that turkey with reveals. Just the amount of licenses they picked up, it's crazy. And I neglected to mention that they recently acquired the Leica license. So if you're a fan of movies like Coraline, Paranorman, Box Trolls, Kubo and the Two Strings, and The Missing Link, you know, modern day stop motion animation type stuff, you're gonna have a lot to look forward to later this summer because they do have a reveal planned that's not reaction related, but I'm guessing is a little bit more on the Ultimate side of things. So I'm looking forward to that. Not sure if I'll pick any of that stuff up because, again, I can't pick up, buy, collect, review everything because I ain't made of money. It'll be really cool to see. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed my coverage of the reveals from the 2022 New York Toy Fair. I know I didn't talk about everything, but as I said before, I ain't made of money. So I decided to only talk about things that are relevant to this channel and things that you come to this channel for review-wise. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more content to the channel. I have another video going up tomorrow, kind of recapping the month. We will talk about some of the stuff we talked about today, as well as what the Four Horsemen have cooking, because if you haven't noticed, All Stars 5 polls are open. Go vote for your favorites, particularly skeletons, yellow demons, and figures I don't have, because I'd hate to miss out on an All-Stars wave because it's stuff I already got. Not to mention the stuff I already got that's in that wave wasn't stuff I was really clamoring for when I got it the first time. So not sure what the ideology behind that is. I get that they want to add variety, but I question some of the decisions made. But ultimately, that's none of my business. I have no control over that. I have no power. I have no say. So it is what it is. But if you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions. But as always, keep comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is, especially when we weren't all able to gather in New York City for this year's Toy Fair. Hopefully a year from now, that will change and we'll all be together again. Well, I won't be there, but everyone I watch here on the YouTubes will most likely be there, and that will be super cool to see the stuff in its physical form instead of just renders and whatnot. They tend to have some really cool displays at the New York Toy Fair, Comic-Cons, and stuff like that. So, looking forward to that again. But, with that being said, until next time, I'll catch you guys later.